Welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna and I'm coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is a podcast about knitting, a little bit of sewing, and the adventures the craft takes me on. You can find me on Instagram at brookwillow_ and on Ravelry at brookwillow. I thought it would be kind of fun to come and knit out in nature again while it's still warm. Not entirely sure if I'm going to be doing this in the winter time, but the colors on the trees are just so beautiful right now. I think you can see a little bit, but the camera definitely does not do it justice. I hope you had a good few weeks. It's been a while since I chatted with you all, but I was so excited to finally do this again. I've been super busy. I went up to the North Shore 2 weekends in a row. So the first weekend I went up to Grand Marais with my best friend Kayla. She flew in from Colorado and we had the best time up there. It was perfect weather. For those who are unfamiliar, Grand Marais is this artist city that is right on Lake Superior, super far north in Minnesota, and it really feels like you're on the ocean, but in the Northwoods at the same time. It's a cool experience. But yeah, we had a lot of fun. I did a lot of knitting up there. She did a lot of crafting. She started embroidery, and so she was working on that for a while. I'm super bummed because I had a ton of footage from that trip and it all got deleted, but at least I have those memories in my brain. And then the next weekend, so this previous weekend, I went up close to Grand Marais again. I did a gravel bike race called the Heck of the North, and it was 56 miles of gravel riding through like ATV trails, out on gravel roads, just deep in the woods. Like I was in the heart of fall. The colors were changing up there a lot faster than they are down here, and it was just an all-around great experience. I didn't get as much knitting done there because we were camping with a bunch of people and friends, so I was just really focused on socializing and whatnot, and I didn't want to like mess any of my knitting up because I get distracted. So yeah, it was a really nice time, but I'm also happy to be back home on the weekends and for things to just calm down a little bit. So I'm finally wearing my first knit piece in the podcast. It's just been too warm because I started this channel in the middle of summer, but this is the Gravel Beanie, which is my own design. If you're a returning viewer, you know all about the Gravel Beanie. But I really love the colors that I used. It's like green and kind of a banana yellow by Tweed's Loft. It's really just a perfect hat. I swear it has temperature control, because when it's warm out it doesn't get too hot, and then when it's cold out it keeps me super warm. And I guess that's just the benefits of wearing hats made of wool. So what I'm working on here is another gravel beanie. This time I modified the pattern just a little bit. This one is for my best friend's boyfriend, which I talked about in previous episodes. And I knit up the brim in a different type of rib stitch. So this one is like a 2x rib stitch, you can tell, whereas this one is just a 1x fisherman rib. I thought it'd be fun. I've been making a lot of these hats lately, and I'm kind of getting burnt out on pretty much just making hats, which are all for people. So I'm like, well, I may as well just switch it up a little bit, and that'll keep it interesting. Still love making this hat, but again, I'm kind of getting tired of just making hats in general. Yeah, so this is also knit with Tweed's Loft in, I can't remember what this maroon color is, but this cream one is Fossil. I like the colors together. They're kind of cool. So I have a couple more things in my bag. I couldn't pack a ton because I'm leaving my home where all of my yarn is. And I have another work in progress that I wanted to show you. I will say I actually don't have any completed projects for this episode, but I do feel like I've gotten far enough on some work in progress that it made it worth filming. So last episode I talked about how I was creating a new scarf for myself, and well, let me just show you. So I've gotten pretty far on it. Here you go. And it's double-sided. So this is a scarf that I'm designing. It's called the Glacier Scarf, and it is knit using the intarsia method. And yeah, I am really loving how it's turning out. It's going to be more of a landscape scene. I love the idea of knitting a landscape, but a little bit more abstract. It's not super realistic. The most realistic piece, I think, is this mountain here, and the rest of it is just fluid and flowy. You'll see more once I knit more. The yarn I'm using is Wool in the Ging's Feeling Good. It's their alpaca blend yarn. I've talked about this many times. It's super soft. Really, I just wanted to show you the progress I've made on it. I fall in love more and more every time I work on it. I've got to say, this has just been the most addicting work in progress, because with every row that I knit, the pattern just starts to develop more. And I don't know, I'm very pleased. I'm excited for when it's done. But I just wanted to update you on that. So next up is a whole new venture for me. I'm almost embarrassed to show you because I'm really bad at it, but I'm going to show you anyways. So I thought it'd be fun to get a drop spindle. Here we go. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. Okay. When I was up in Grand Marais, Kayla and I were walking through town, and there was a group of people sitting in front of a slightly unmarked shop, and then I noticed they all had knitting with them, and then I realized they were a knitting circle, and it was so charming. And then behind them, I also saw that there's a yarn shop, so of course I had to stop in. It's Dappled Fern Fibers up in Grand Marais. Super cute shop, very curated and kind of a boutique-y vibe, which is actually really the type of yarn shop that I like, because I can get a little overwhelmed when they're packed full. Nothing wrong with that, but that's just the type of yarn shop that I like. So yeah, they had drop spindles for sale, and I had to get one because I've been wanting to get one for a while. So there's a little bit of my spinning on it, but it's super simple and clean. Please don't judge my spinning. I watched like a fraction of a tutorial on how to use the drop spindle, and I'm like, good enough. And then I started spinning, and I'm like, it's not great, but that's okay. I kind of like the unevenness. It really shows that it's handmade. So then a couple days later, I went to the yarnery in St. Paul, and I picked up some, a big leaf just fell. I picked up some fiber. So this is Malabrigo. I always pronounce it wrong. This is their fiber to spin. It's so beautiful. There's so many colors in it. I'm obsessed. Oh. You may see and hear they do rowing practice, and they might be rowing right behind me. I'm not sure if you can tell in the video, but sorry for the noise. Anyways, so I started spinning up some chunky yarn. I'm still getting a hang of this autofocus. Trying to get my face out of it. So I'm spinning it up, and I'm intending to use it for the big cafe facet sweater that I've been working on forever. I thought it'd be very special to have a piece of it on that sweater, since it's just been taking me so long. Sorry. I thought it would be fun to have a piece of my own hand-spun yarn on the center back of it, since it's taking so long to work on it. And it's such a special piece. So, this has been fun. So when I was at Dappled Fern Fibers, I did pick up 2 hanks of yarn, and I'm so excited about it. So I always buy yarn for whatever project I'm working on. I've never bought yarn for the sake of buying yarn because I thought it was just beautiful with no plans. But I finally did, because I thought it was just a fun souvenir to take home from such a memorable trip. So the first piece of yarn, they're both from the brand Lichen and Lace, which I had never heard of until this weekend. They are hand dyed in Sackville, New Brunswick. So here's the first color that I have. Oh, cool, I did it. It's so beautiful. It reminds me of like dusk at night. I'm not much of a blue person, but there was something about this yarn that really just drew me to it. I kind of have been really wanting to knit up Andrea Maury's Night Shift. I think it's Night Shift. It's the shawl that has all these different colors in it, and I think she said the purpose of that shawl was to use up the hanks of yarn that you buy because you think it's beautiful. So I'm gonna start buying some yarn for it just organically as I come upon it, with the intention of maybe knitting that shawl. So this yarn is superwash merino worsted in the color Huckleberry. Alright, so I asked the gentleman working there if they had any sock yarn, and he led me to this yarn. I didn't really read it, like what it was made of, so I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work as sock yarn because it's just 100% superwash merino, and I don't know if that's strong enough for socks since there's no nylon or anything in it. I was just so excited. I picked it out, I bought it, and I left. But anyways, this was purchased with the intention of making socks, but I may not make socks with it. I could use a reinforcement thread on the heels and toes, but I don't want to disturb this beautiful, subtle color that it is. And this one is Silver Fox. Is that everything? Okay. So I actually have one other work in progress that I did not bring with me because it's an entire blanket, and you may be thinking, if you've watched my previous episodes, like, holy crap, how did she knit up almost a whole blanket? Well, I didn't. So at work, I was helping this customer, and her and my other colleague kind of got on the topic of sewing and crafts and whatnot, and she asked us if any of us knit, and I got so excited. I'm like, oh, of course I do, blah blah blah. And she was telling me how no one in her family knits, but her mom had just passed away this last February and was in the middle of making this woman's daughter a fisherman blanket, and it wasn't finished, unfortunately, so it's just been sitting in their house unfinished since none of them know how to knit. So she asked me if I would ever consider finishing the blanket for them, and I got so excited, like, yeah, of course I'll finish this blanket for you, because it's so sad to have just this whip sitting in a house with no one to finish it. So she dropped it off, and I was very thankful she had the pattern for it. I would have been able to figure it out, but it just made it easier to have the pattern. And the woman was so close to finishing this blanket. All that was left to it after I did some investigating is just one little panel on the blanket, and then to add the fringe at the ends. Alright, so yeah, that blanket shouldn't take me long to finish at all. I was a little worried because I just have so many whips right now, and it's stressing me out a little bit, but it's my own fault because I keep casting on new things. So I know it's kind of a shorter episode. I didn't have a ton of new items, definitely no new finished objects, but I really hope to have some by the next episode just to keep trucking along. Yeah, but I have to get going because I actually have to go to work after this. I slipped in a nice little knit by the river before I have to start my busy day. I hope you all are doing well, and if you like what you see here, it would be super helpful if you hit the like button. If you are not already subscribed and you want to see more of my videos, I highly recommend subscribing, and that way you'll get alerted and never miss an ep. All of the information of the types of yarns and the patterns that I used in this episode are going to be linked below in the description. I hope you have a lovely rest of your weekend, and we'll talk next time. Bye!